Superman Lost issue 7 finds Lois return home to Clark, who is busy cooking them dinner. Before she can talk, he mentions that he went to see a doctor that Kara recommended to him and he might be able to help him. Lois wants to know all about it as hours before, Mike Swartz enters his office to find a hooded man waiting for him. The man apologizes for barging in, telling the doctor that for most of his life he felt alone, but as it turns out, he had a cousin. The man wonders how he got into the room as Clark turns to reveal who he actually is, telling the man that he wanted to keep a low profile, hence why he wore a hoodie over his Superman costume. He tells the doctor that he doesn't remember Krypton since he lost his world when he was a baby, but his cousin remembers it well and she lost it all and it caused unimaginable emotional trauma to her. Clark thinks he's an idiot since he tried to mentor Kara without a clue to the pain she was masking. Mike thinks that he's got his first clue now since he's there, realizing that the Kara he's been seeing is actually Supergirl. Clark tells Mike that it's been 2 months since he's been home and his partner has been trying to get him home ever since, but he feels like he's losing the love of his life and he doesn't know how to fix it. Mike doesn't know either since he's not a doctor or a magician, wanting just to hear Superman's story. In the past at A612, Superman speeds towards the giant black hole with the older Superman in tow, telling him that they aren't being ripped apart by the singularity because of the several protected lanes they can travel, lanes that he found while surveying it. The old man says that they all escaped Victor's planet to save it, but it was useless since the singularity's gravity well had already scrambled his Marquis system, meaning that he was never able to locate Kansas again and decades had passed by the time he reached Earth, losing him everything and everyone he loved. Clark asks why he travelled back through the hole and the old man says it was to save Superman from himself. Decades after Superman returned through the hole, Clark sits alone in his apartment in his wheelchair when Jimmy Olsen arrives, asking how this could have happened. Superman knows that it was easier and faster than he could have ever imagined, telling Jimmy that he shouldn't be there. Jimmy agrees, not believing that it was really Superman he saw on the streets panhandling. Superman tells him to call him Clark since he might as well know his secret. Jimmy asks if Lois knows and Clark tells him that she remarried years ago, something that he already knew. Jimmy reveals that he also knew that Clark was Superman, asking why he's squatting in an abandoned building. Two people come out of the room from next door, revealing Superman is there because they are the ones who made Oinos, the filtrate reversing system they made to reverse the greenhouse gas effect on Earth, but in doing so infected the atmosphere and it inhibited Superman's body from efficiently absorbing solar rays. The people find themselves responsible for what they did to Superman, and it was only right they try and find a way to alter Superman's genes and restore his powers. And Superman knows that it's only fitting that Superman help them in return and reverse the climate change and effect it has had on them as well. Jimmy thinks they inadvertently destroyed Superman, but Clark knows that he and his pride did that, remembering how in his weakened state he still led Earth's heroes against the Grix, who had become self-aware and revolted against the people of Rann, attacking Earth in the process. During the battle, Superman's weakened state got him caught by the robots who broke his back. Jimmy reminds him that they still won that battle and beat back the Grix 25 years ago. But Clark thinks the irony of it all was that he wasn't even needed, as the machines were taken down by a malignant code string, and because he failed, the world is still paying the price. Jimmy thinks that he is just powerless down on Earth, taking Clark to a secure Bravo 6 area. The gate guards try and take some pictures of the hero as Jimmy's car is way through the barricades. Clark doesn't think he's getting into a ship in his current state, but Jimmy has no intention into letting the hero crawl through the wreckage, running his car through the closed sign barrier and up into the ship itself. Clark knows that the ship should be able to run or at least get them into low orbit and above the changed atmosphere, which should then restore his powers. Clark reminds Jimmy that it's a one-way trip though, and he can never return to Earth thanks to the atmosphere being the way it is, and also reactivating the ship might rearm it, or the self-destruct protocols the military put in place, so either the stunt of theirs works or it kills him. Clark stops himself, wondering why being super is so important to him, rather than living without it. Jimmy straps on a parachute, wanting to find out together. As in the past, the young Superman stops the story, telling the old man Superman that he had him up until he said that Jimmy voluntarily put on a parachute, since he knows Jimmy wouldn't even reach for high shelves. He asks how many times this old man has told this story, finding that it's been through a fair few times and it's never worked since Clark is too smart and stubborn for that. The old Superman tries to tell his younger self that if he survives this trip, the wormhole will spit him out anywhere in space and in time, and he's just one of the countless possibilities. Superman believes this older version of himself is a gatekeeper who can't return to Earth, so he waits there in the space-time loop to delay his other selves with a cautionary tale and make sure that they pass through at the right moment. Clark figures that he won't be told if he makes it home or not, since he wouldn't want to know, since hope is all they have left. He asks the older Superman to join him, but he thinks he'll just get in each other's nerves, since he will second-guess himself and look to the older Superman for answers, but he won't have them. He tells him that there is no Superman and there is only Clark and Earth and all he has ever known, and he should never take Lois Lane for granted again. Superman heads back through the wormhole and sometime later emerges on the other side. The Marquise system kicks in, telling him it's been 3 days since he passed through the wormhole and he's still in shock, so the system sent out an emergency distress beacon which is picked up by Adam Strange, who rescues Superman from the black hole. Sometime later on Earth, Lois meets with Lex Luthor at a restaurant. Lex found her message to be rather cryptic and he likes that. As they order food, Lex knows that this is about Superman and how he has been acting. He gleefully toys with Lois, telling her that he has been expecting her for weeks now, so what took her so long? Lois thinks that this was a mistake, but Lex figures that she is there because Lex Luthor is the only one who can break Superman out of his catatonic state. He tells Lois that he hates the man just because he breathes, and just thinking about it makes him want to gouge his eyes out with a fork. Lois knows that Lex needs Superman since he defines him and he doesn't want to destroy him, but beat him, and Lex can't stand the idea of anything else beating him either. Lex jokes about both of them sharing some depressive narcissistic qualities, wanting to get funny hats made together, but knows Lois wants him to poke Superman in the hopes that it will snap him out of whatever daze he's in. He agrees to do it, and it means the world to him that he can do it, since the world is all he is ever after. Before Lois can leave though, Lex reveals that she has pancreatic cancer, having given it to her by micro-targeting her with gamma emissions since she arrived in the restaurant. Lois lunges at Lex as he says that she wanted his help and she has it since rescuing her is what Superman does. He tells Lois that he is the devil and this is what a devil's bargain looks like, and besides, chivalry is completely woke now. Lex thinks that she should go and get a second opinion, but there is no cure for cancer since if there was, he would have found it by now. He implores Lois to tell Superman since it would wake him up, and after that, let him come for him. Lois leaves and heads to the doctor's, which confirms the worst to her. She's given some pills to help and goes home, finding Clark cooking dinner, but before she can tell him, Clark tells her that he found a doctor who might be able to help, and Lois wants to hear all about it.